So 10 years ago, Gabe Newell got on stage and told the world about a possible future Valve had been worried about. A future where a proprietary platform could take over the industry and jeopardize the opportunity of openness. So, what was the solution to this problem? According to Valve, it was to focus on three things. Number one, figure out the user interface / operating system or platform that everyone could use. Number two was the form factor, the actual hardware design that this platform would run on. And number three was solving interaction. You need a controller that stays familiar with console gamers, but has the flexibility to serve as another option that allows software developers to port over mouse and keyboard games to the living room. At the time, this idea becomes the Steam machine. Valve would take over the software side of things, partner manufacturers jumped onto taking over the hardware design in the form of these mini PCs, and our interaction point becomes the Steam controller. And there were a lot of Steam machines. Everyone made one at all these different power tiers and price brackets, and really the moral of the story to wrap things up is that it all failed at the time. But since then, Valve has shifted their priorities. You could say that the Steam Deck became the Steam Machine 2 in some ways, but really the idea of having these powerful Steam machines in your living room seems kind of far-fetched now. Or what would a modern Steam machine look like today? So this is what a modern Steam machine could look like, and I'm going to show you how to build one for yourself. I try to keep it budgeted to the equivalent of the ultra tier Steam machines back then. Hardware has come a long way in 10 years, unfortunately so have prices. That machine had an i5 4670K, and for this build I've gone with the Ryzen 7 7800X3D. It's still an absolute king of gaming, 3D V-cache, there's no software scheduling reliance issues, it's easy to cool in a mini form factor, efficiency is fantastic, and yeah, one of the best solutions for gaming right now that doesn't have to be a productivity monster. Now when it comes to mini ITX AM5 boards, they are usually on the pricier side. The board we're going with in this case is the B650i Lightning from ASRock. It's 200 bucks, has fantastic reviews, 8 usable USB ports, 1 Type-C, PCIe Gen 5, Wi-Fi 6E. It really covers anything we'd need for the setup we're going for. For storage, most AAA games are now pretty ridiculous in size, so we've opted for 2 terabytes of Crucial P3+. You can snipe a deal for around 100 bucks, which makes it a no-brainer. And the same goes with DDR5 nowadays. It's gotten pretty affordable compared to where it used to be, so I've gone with 32 gigs of Vengeance 6000 from Corsair. It was 115 bucks. The modules also happen to be lower clearance, so you'll have some flexibility with mounting CPU coolers. Now, cooling the 7800X3D is going to be handled by the Noctua NHL12S, a very capable low-profile cooler for 65 bucks. If you can't get over that awesome Noctua brown, you can swap the fan for a black one. Now, I've experimented with a few different coolers here. This one happened to fit perfectly in this setup. Mounting is fairly straightforward. You can use the same back plate, just remove the stock brackets from the motherboard and use the included Noctua ones with the spacers. From here, add some thermal paste. Noctua includes a little screwdriver in the box where you can lock down the cooler through the cutouts on the fins. After it's all tightened down, we can plug in the fan header. Now, moving on to the case. This is where I wanted something modern looking, but also fitting in a living room where you'd normally see something like this. I had a black Series X that was a bit of a dust magnet, even if you were constantly cleaning it, so white went a bit more with that fresh aesthetic. And the Fractal Ridge basically checked all the boxes for that Steam machine look. Sometimes it's kind of difficult to source these. This is the updated version that's in stock on Amazon now. It came out to $135 with an included PCIe Gen 4 riser card. You can fit massive GPUs. There's solid ventilation. It doesn't have any of that gamer drip. So pop the top, bottom, and side panels off, and then unscrew the GPU bracket. And then we can lower our motherboard and anchor it down into the case. Now, as for case cables, super simple. Just use the HD audio connector in the top right, followed by the USB 3.0, Type-C, and front panel connectors. At this point, you also want to plug in your case fans, just routing the cables through the back. As for the power supply, I've gone with the Cooler Master V850 SFX. This is the white edition, 80 plus gold. It has a super quiet fan, so you don't have any of those weird fluctuations, and it's fully modular. From here, unscrew the PSU bracket and mount it onto the power supply. And before we slot it back in, you can plug in the 24-pin motherboard power cable, CPU 8-pin, and the GPU PCIe cables. Just slot it in, tighten it all down once your cables are good to go and routed. And next up, we're finally ready to install the GPU. Here we have the 4070 Ti Super. It's all right price-wise, definitely not killing it. 4 variants of the 70 series is pretty insane, but that's just how NVIDIA is doing it right now. You can opt for the 7900 XT if you don't mind less power efficiency or care about DLSS or ray tracing. Now, for the installation, you'll need to remove this top bracket, including these fan screws, and lock in the included riser cable for the GPU. Line it up in the socket and press it down. From here, run your GPU power cables and reinstall the top bracket you removed. Verify all your connectors are fully sealed and do a little bit of cable management to keep it looking all clean. You might have to use the adapter depending on your GPU. From here, reinstall your case panels, and that's pretty much the entire build. Nothing crazy, super clean, and getting it set up for use as a Steam machine like console is super easy. Now, since this is going to be used as a full-fledged hybrid media machine, I was actually looking to build a NAS to share files between the PC and the Steam Deck. This one is still a project that's a work in progress, but I have been using this setup to transfer files directly from a NAS to the Steam Deck's local storage. It just involves using a web client within the Linux desktop mode. It works really good for mods. Now, while I was working on this, channel sponsor Ugreen reached out and asked me to try out their new system. This is their NAS Sync DXP 4800 Plus. It's this mini all aluminum chassis, and it's basically a private cloud storage that's connected to your network, and it's fully expandable. If you aren't familiar with a NAS, it's essentially a computer that runs network services that allows other computers and devices to access that storage. It's really just a mini PC that's equipped with a 12th Gen i5. There's 8 gigs of expandable DDR5. You can go up to 64 gigs of RAM if you need, and it's a realistic solution if you need to access a lot of photos, videos, or files that you want to share amongst your devices. Ugreen's unit is also completely toolless, so you can swap drives by pushing on the bay doors. There's 4 SATA and 2 NVMe M.2 bays, and a maximum storage capacity of up to 96 terabytes. There's 10 gigabit and 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports, a nice selection of I/O options, and there's even an HDMI out for accessing the machine directly if you want to. I'm still working on setting this up for a remote access setup for the Steam Deck, but they have an official desktop app and phone access that lets you manage the entire server. Setup has been really simple. They even have an integrated AI model that runs locally on the system for organizing files and photos without needing an internet connection. The entire unit feels solid, and it's been reliable thus far. So shout out to Ugreen for sending over this machine, and I'll drop a link for all the parts and the system below if you're interested in checking any of this out. Now, as for the build, we are pretty much done. This is our super compact, super fast Steam machine. The result is realistically set up to be a Steam big picture setup. I remotely connected my Steam Deck to control the entire system, and it's working flawlessly. Fan noise is minimal for a gaming PC in the living room. Performance has been excellent. Thermals are nice and cool, and it really feels like Valve's vision for a console 10 years ago. If you look back in the past and you remember the big 3 goals for Valve, number 1 became SteamOS. 10 years ago, it totally wasn't ready yet, but you can see how far it's come today. Linux is now taken seriously as a gaming platform and no longer miles away from the forefront. At the time, Valve said they didn't want to make hardware for the Steam machine, and now they make the Steam Deck. And the Steam controller basically integrated itself into the Steam Deck. Long story short, the idea of a modern Steam machine, in my opinion, is still pretty cool. So this build was fun. Pretty easy recommendation if you're looking to get into PCs and you're a console gamer and you want something that kind of blends into the living room. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.